So the university hopes to complete the EIS process by the summer of 2020. Once the EIS process is completed, which means accepted by the governor, the university can seek a new land authorization from the BLNR. So that's where we are at this point.
For the action or alternative 2 and 3, what would the university be seeking in terms of a length of time? Would this be for a new 55 years, 65 years, or a shorter term?
I believe we left that open. I'm not 100% sure, but I think in some of the discussions it was 50 to 55 years, something like that.
So you're looking at the summer of 2020 of being completed with the EIS and going to the governor?
Yeah, actually having it accepted by the governor. Well, I mean, yes, excuse me, completed and going to the governor, yes.
Potentially 30 meter will already have started construction by then.
Correct.
I mean, are you concerned at all of action number 1, the no land authorization prior to starting construction?
Yeah, that's always a concern. You know, in our look at things, and I believe TIO discusses this in their submittal to you folks as well. You know, astronomy on Mauna Kea, in our interpretation, has been a long-standing state policy. And so it continues to be our working assumption that a new land authorization will continue. I think that's the position that we have to assume at this point. And if there is a change to that, that's obviously a broader discussion than just, that's not the university's decision. So that's a broader discussion involving a number of different branches of government, community, and agencies.
I know you kind of speak for 30 meter, but someone that I'm sure talks to them regularly, do you have an idea of what their timeline is and their construction timeline? I mean, is it possible for them to start construction once the governor accepts an EIS and we can secure a long-term lease for the summit?
I don't have an idea of what their timeline is in terms of when they plan to submit all of the documents and whatnot. You heard Sam and Stephanie talk about. I really don't.
I guess we just want to ensure this project is successful and put in the best position for
Absolutely.
Success. And it seems starting without having a definitive, length of time on Mauna Kea would be. Senator Shah.
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Yes.
This whole process, is it pretty much driven by the TMT people, not by the university, not by other local entities? It's pretty much their show. They tell you when they might do it, when they can do it. Is it pretty much all the cards are held by them?
No.
No?
Astronomy, as you heard Dr. McLaren speak, and I'm sure as President Lasner would affirm, astronomy on Mauna Kea is important to the university way beyond TMT. And so not only do we have a lot invested, but there is a tremendous future that we envision that astronomy can provide the state. So I've not seen them driving the bus here. It's not been my experience.
Okay, thank you.
Would the university be able to request that TMT wait to start construction prior to the finalization of the EIS and approval by the governor and the land board long-term lease? I mean, is that unreasonable to ask?
I think it would put the university in a very difficult legal position, given the approvals that they have secured.
The leases then with each of the telescope operators, they're all set to expire in 2033 also?
Correct.
And so then they would be renegotiated?
Correct.
Presuming this all goes forward. So TMT has come forward and their lease would be to 2033. And their
time,
plan,
correct.
their expectation, their only expectation would be that they could operate and
Right.
could get it open and
Right.
operate a couple years.
Right. Correct.
And they're willing to do that on the chance that they'll probably get a lease extension.
Correct.
Okay. And I'm sorry, then the EIS will be due next year?
2020.
2020, and then the decision to negotiate or to sort out that lease would take about how much longer? I mean, the lease term, when do you think that'll be resolved without too many hiccups, if we're to go without too much grief?
We haven't thought that far ahead, actually, and it's because technically the EIS is for a new land authorization, of which a lease could be one of the options.
So someone besides UH could come in and bid for that lease too?
Presumably.
Arguably, yeah. Okay.
But we also are seeking input on executive order or other kinds of potential transfers.
Okay. But so you don't have an estimated time when you think that the lease question would ideally be resolved by?
No, not at this time.
Thanks, Jerry.
But just to clarify, the university doesn't have to have a master lease for us to continue astronomy at Mauna Kea. The land board has well within their legal authority to issue a direct lease to TMT and every other one of the telescopes up there. Is that correct?
Presumably, yeah.
I mean, they are the landowner.
Could work that way.
So if the UH cannot get a master lease, astronomy can still continue in Mauna Kea with the land board issuing a direct lease to TMT. Is that correct?
Correct.
Because if the sublease to TMT is tied to the master lease and that expires, I believe per existing laws governing public lands, there's only one option, and that's, you can't do a lease extension. It has to go to public auction unless there's new enabling legislation. Or like, unless you just suggested there's an executive order from the administration to transfer the lands of Mauna Kea to the University of Hawaii. That's another option too, right?
Correct.
Is that something the university is asking for?
We are agnostic on the particular mechanism.